Yes, time for reparations. This is your host, Brother Jumoke Ifetayo, holding it down for the Reparations Now podcast. We happen to be right now in Brooklyn, New York. And both of our guests happen to reside in Brooklyn, New York as well. Very excited about the show that we have today. But before we get started, we ask you to take a pause to like and subscribe our channel. And so we're just going to have a kind of casual conversation today. Should be a fun conversation today with my daughter, Lena Oluranti, as well as I don't like to say stepdaughter, but my daughter from my partner, Nik Gardner, also known as Nik. And three of us are just going to chop it up, listening to them mostly chop it up about their thoughts and reflections on reparations. They are the millennial generation. So we're seeing what's up and what's on the minds of the millennials as it relates to this conversation called reparations. So we usually like to start out with letting people just introduce themselves a little bit, telling us about what you do and your background and your interest in connection to reparations. So who wants to go first? All right. Well, so I'm gonna put Nikema on first.
I'll go first. Well, I'm awesome. I'm Nik Gardner. Of course, I'm an educator, a parent advocate, and a pediatric caregiver of a child with special needs. I kind of entered into the whole reparations space when you kind of involved me more a few years ago. But I was looking at things like sparingly here and there. I had knowledge of Comic-Con and so forth, just vaguely. But definitely my interest has peaked more as I gotten older and understood the struggles and things like that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, I was introduced to what I'm supposed to say about myself or my introduction to
start with yourself first. Yes.
Okay.
Who are you? What do you do? What's your mission?
Okay. Well, I am, first and foremost, I like to think of myself, I am a servant. I am of service. I am a paraprofessional in the New York City DOE schools. I also work as a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor. And I am an artist. So those things together brought me to the reparations movement, being that my father is, been doing this work for years. And I've always been, tagging along to different meetings and things. And I think that I came to reparations just with my own lens of how, we could all reach wholeness. So my own personal experience has brought me to my own personal understanding, along with what my father has taught me. But I also have my own personal experience and understanding of what reparations looks like to me.
So that's a good next question. So what does reparations look like to you?
Reparations right now, and it evolves, it changes. Reparations to me looks like wholeness. I think that we don't understand how much we have lost in terms of the generational trauma and the generational disparities that we have been experiencing. I don't think that we really know and we really examine the true effects of what we are experiencing. And so wholeness in terms of financial, emotional, and physical wholeness and spiritual, what that looks like in being a whole and complete being. That is what reparations looks like to me. That means our journey to wholeness, our return to wholeness, because we once were whole. And had the slave trade not occurred, had the Ma'afa not occurred, where would we be? So wholeness is my goal, whether that is in closing the gaps for disparities in all of those different ways, financial, emotional, and physical, and spiritual ways. That's what reparations looks like to me, wholeness.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. That was a great answer. It really was. But I would piggyback and say, when it comes wholeness, a greater sense of self-pride, self-respect. Um, our people definitely need that. When it comes to the understanding of slavery, many of us may shy away from learning more about it because there's so much shame. And, many of us may just not want to hear about it, figure, oh, that's so long ago. But it helps you solidify who you are in this country by learning about the past and understanding the strength it took for those people who were enslaved unjustly, and their descendants to have like a certain level of pride and, dignity, and going forward, understanding the inventions that we never got, recognition for. So reparation looks like recognition, better self-respect, better Black nationalism for us, to know who we are and to reach abroad too, because we're one of many people who were like, basically ripped away. So just, those ties being strengthened.
All right. All right. So so besides talking to me about reparations, I know you all must have conversations with your peers and other people about
Yes.
reparations. What do those conversations look like?
River,
Your peers
those
as well.
communications, sorry.
Go ahead.
Discussion reparation with my peers has been very interesting. You'll be surprised as to how little people may know about the current proposal bills to study reparations and stuff like that, or knowing the many organizations that have put the work in over years. Many people who check the black box, in my demographic, don't know about NARC, the National African American, they don't know about NARC, they don't know about NCOBRA. They heard of NAACP, of course, it's very little knowledge known in certain demographics. So, a lot of things are not understood. So when you bring up reparations, some people may feel like, oh, you're asking for a handout. And you can hear that within friend groups. And it's like, no, it's restitution. Like it's a debt to be paid, and not something like, what it's, give me money and me just go get whatever. Like, no, it's basically money for unpaid labor and, and suffering from our lineage of people. So, and my friend group is diverse of different types of people, whether they're Hispanic, they check the black box, whether they're Caribbean background, African American. And there's a lot to explain because there is a lot of misinformation. Of course, we have other organizations that are, they like to troll online, and that doesn't help. And at times they associate the fight for reparations with certain trolling organizations or people. So it gives it kind of like a bad taste in their mouth with the lack of education paired with it. It doesn't really go smoothly. But I'm trying to, iron that out. And if I have Caribbean friends, I tell them about CARICOM, do you actually think, African Americans deserve reparations? And at times, the answer could go left or right, and they may feel like, what's in it for my people exactly? And I'm like, well, CARICOM is making waves and stuff like that, so that'll be beautiful. And they don't know about everything, so a lot of education is needed, without a doubt.
I'd say that I'm not really sure. I don't really have many conversations in regards to legislation or the government's or the legislative endeavors towards reparations. But something that I don't know, my Baba doesn't love me to say, but my thing is the internal repair. That is something that I think that's the position that I like to take, and that's the place where I like to talk about, where we have our conversations about how we are healing ourselves, reparations, the root word is to repair. And so if we are talking about we are repairing what was lost, what was broken, what we are missing, that for me was first taking accountability and looking at how are we working to repair ourselves? How are we healing ourselves? How are we pouring into ourselves? How are we giving to ourselves? So that is the majority of how I frame the conversations about reparations. And of course, you heal in community, you heal in isolation, but you also heal in community. And so when you have different conversations about things that have harmed you and experiences that you have had, I think that a lot of people have had a lot of the same experiences. And so that repair and that community and collective healing is how I speak about reparations and how I speak about what that looks like and feels like for our generation coming up.
Yes, and just for the record, I just have an issue with the term internal reparations. Internal repair is fine, or the term I like to use, self-repair.
Okay, so I'll keep
important
internal repair. I won't say internal reparations. Okay, that's where we'll keep it.
There we go. So I know we've had this discussion, Lena, on the round too. We've had discussion a lot about like what is the role that athletes and celebrities, artists can have in terms of promoting reparations or getting younger people more engaged with reparations. And so I know you have your opinions on that.
I do. What I'm keeping it real this time, or what we keeping it funky? We keeping it funky? Okay. I think that there is a level of white validation that a lot of celebrity and a lot of people who are in position that they desire a little too much, in my opinion. And so when you desire validation from the very people who are harming your people and who are causing harm, that is problematic for me, because you will put the validation and the whatever rewards that are being handed out for your participation above your above the harm and above the healing of the people that still need it. Like, just because you moved out of the ghettos and you moved to the nicer part of town, that part of town still exists. Those ghettos still exist. Just because you don't see it anymore and it's not your day-to-day reality anymore doesn't mean that they don't exist. And so that's some of the things that I take issue with. And I also think that some of these, I think we look to them too much. We give them too much energy. I think that we must understand that whoever you are, whatever leader you are, you must have the people. The people are the power. If you do not have the support of the people, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. You can be canceled because the people no longer deal with you. The people no longer support you. And so I think that we as the people have to take back our power from giving these celebrities or these people who we think are working on our behalf that are really not. We have to take back our power, and we have to say, hey, we have to hold each other accountable. Hey, is this person really on our side? I'm not going to say any specific names, but I'm sorry. Promoting alcohol to an already sick people is not in alignment with your healing and not in alignment with us progressing and healing and moving forward. Promoting gambling and a host of other things, promoting low frequency behavior, that is not moving in the direction of healing for our people. So, a lot of people could say, "Oh, well, they're just trying to." No, I don't sit on the fence with that. If you are promoting sickness, then you're benefiting from selling sickness to your people. I don't support that. I don't support that. And we shouldn't support you doing that, because at that point you're exploiting and you are in the same position as the people who have oppressed us. So I don't stand for that. I don't support that. I think that there are people who are doing good things in terms of, but I think that if our unity is more important also,
Mm-hmm.
on at a unified level, that's our power to say, hey, we're going to be a unified front and we're making demands, not just, oh yeah, we get a couple cherry picked people to come
Mm-hmm.
represent and benefit at their own, self-centric way. That doesn't serve everyone. We must serve, everyone must rise, everyone must go. It doesn't, if you're a couple cherry picked people, that doesn't serve everyone. That doesn't heal everybody. We must bring everyone along. And if you only bringing yourself, then it's just going to be you. And at the end of the day, when you don't have the people and you don't have community, that will be your loss.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I don't feel, I kind of, it annoys me when certain rappers are asked about social area issues in the Black community as if they're this political analyst all of a sudden overnight. Like, not to say they don't have, some type of political literacy. However, when they go to answer, it's like, it's not quite landing the way that most people would like it to land. And I feel like they're put on the spot oftentimes, or how what it is, Trump had Steve Harvey trying to speak for the Black people all of a sudden. I'm like, that's a certain class of Black folk that that you want to speak for the masses of other Black folk. Most of us are not millionaires. Okay. And so, like you were saying, they're so removed sometimes what
Out of
they
touch,
speak.
out of touch,
So out
completely
of touch. It's so out of touch. It's like, well, yes, we know your struggle story. Yes, people can make it out of the most rural areas to the big city until, Beverly Hills. Of course, we have those cherry pickers, those exceptional examples. But by and large, that's not what it is. So it feels like you negate the demographic that really needs the voice instead of actually, going to the most popular rapper whose message is smoke, drink, shoot. That probably would not be the best person to ask about how do you feel about gun control. Like, not to saying they don't have some type of, marbles up there, but it's, their message that they're known for in the masses does not match with this political question that you're asking them. So I feel like often it's a setup, for one, on their behalf. They're being used as a ploy, and you should go to a community leader to speak about. Go to the council person, someone that's actually near the grassroots area, like level of things, not somebody really up there, upper echelon, and they're so removed because it's a different type of wording and language and expression they're going to give. You need to see the piece of the people who haven't made it yet. That's where a lot of the real feeling will come from, because a lot of us are not the 1%, the 2%, the 5%.
I'll even add to that. A lot of people, I think that a lot of people don't even understand how they need healing and how they need wholeness, and how they are even still how they have been harmed, and how they continue to be harmed. So especially once you have reached a certain place, you're like, oh yeah, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And so it takes a certain kind of individual, because you have to, I've spoke with Baba, is like being in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have time to really look at your wounds or really look at the ways that you have been harmed, because you don't have time to check your Band-Aid because you are still trying to walk. You don't have time to check your cast because you are really still moving and still walking. And so you can't diagnose, say for instance, a car. You can't diagnose the car, the issues with the vehicle until it stops running. And so many people are running, that they cannot diagnose what the problems are and what is going. So you just still going, but eventually that car is gonna break down. Eventually you're gonna have something, and then we're gonna have to have a real conversation about, hey, how did we get here? How did you get here? So in regards to, I think we have a lot of unhealed people, and using poor coping mechanisms, and even in the industry, who are answering these questions and don't understand the need and don't have the information needed.
Yeah, and they want to appeal to the audience that pays the bills for them, and so it's very compromised.
And that's not us, so to speak.
Exactly.
So it is not beneficial for them to.
All right, I'm going to push harder on this stuff. Okay. I'm going to push some more on this issue. So y'all both talked about how, say, young people are not necessarily familiar with the details of the reparations movement or with legislation or even some of the main organizations in COBRA, NARC, what have you. Yet we do know that these influencers, if you will, celebrities, have appeal. They can reach a lot of people with their platform. Like they made a big deal about, I don't know how big a deal it is or not, Taylor Swift saying that, she's supporting Kamala, her 2 billion followers, influenced by that. I don't know how true that is or not. But I mean, surely we can find somebody that hasn't done a liquor commercial or whatever that could possibly move the reparations message further. We've had people like, I don't know, Killer Mike, or I'm thinking, I don't know where Kendrick Lamar stands on. Yeah, I mean, I know he supports reparations. I don't know what he has promoted, but there's others. We got excited when Beyonce dropped reparations in one of her songs, and so I'm just still want to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm still just being optimistic that we could get some of the celebrities, and maybe not just in the music industry, but perhaps like athletes. Like we just watched a documentary about how the Women's Basketball Association, had an influence on.
Well, Baba, I have to be frank with you.
Senator Warnock getting elected.
I have to be frank.
I'll stop there. So.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to my original point. They are not the power. The people are the power. That they are not the power. We need to. We must remember that. And that.
How do we get the message to the people?
By continuing the work. That's it. That's it. It's. I don't think that it is. I don't. As we can see with the certain climate of events, a lot of these celebrity people, their character is not.
Yeah.
Is being called into question. So you might not even want some of those people that you're mentioning involved in your campaign, because then you'll see later that some of their character and some of their behind the scene moves are not really going to help you. So I think that we I don't think we don't need them. They don't need them. We need more. We need to work to get the message out. We need to take back our power. We need to demand, and we need to unify. We need to take back our power, and we need to recognize that the people are the power. I really don't subscribe to, of course I want everybody on board. And I want it to progress as much as possible, but we have to be on one accord and clear about our power. We have the power to do this. We do. And I think that we talked, me and you talked about this at our family reunion. It doesn't have to be everybody, but a critical mass of people can really change the tide. And I think that that's and it's about moving with more momentum and more velocity and more forward thinking in that, and of course, gathering as many as we can. Getting more more support, whether that is in advocacy or whether that is in finances, or but we'll need them, dog. They need us. The people need the people. And we seeing that some of these people is not is not what we need, because they do
No.
a disservice in regards to their character and their come on. You can't do, that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Okay. I agree. It would be great. Like Beyonce drops Reparations and Black Parade. Beautiful. Like beautiful thing. Beautiful. However, and like you were saying, yes, it could bring views, it brings awareness. But then you have to really, it's bad when you feel like, do I have to do a background check on a celebrity? Like what's going to pop out in 5 years, 10 years about their personal character? And as soon as you get momentum behind the reparation thing, it's like, oh, so-and-so celebrity is linked to this type of trafficking, and it don't kind of meet together quite well. Like, you don't need that interference, because they will, the power structure
I
that
see y'all holding y'all position. We're gonna try. I'm gonna try one more angle just for fun.
Okay.
So we got a song. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nikki. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Were you finished?
No. It would be great if we had a celebrity, somebody that actually spread the word on their bazillion, million, followers on their pages and stuff like that. But I feel if they're not really walking a straight line, people from a higher power structure that are anti-reparations will use them as a way to put down the whole effort, every type of effort. If they, oh my God, they beat a dog. Like, Stacey, this big pop star, beat a dog, and now, the whole reparation is full of dog beaters. The power structure would do that.
And what we know about our excellent leaders before us, they were excellent. Malcolm was excellent. Martin was excellent. And they still were tried to defame and, and discredit them and take shots at them. So,
and still doing it.
Still doing it. And they were excellent. So we talking about excellent. We talking about top tier. We talking about spiritual leaders. We're talking about divine. Okay. And so I'm really not, like I said, if the spirit moves certain people to be moved and to get involved and to want to do something for their people, by all means, whoever it is, okay, I welcome them. But do I desire or do I, want to push for that? No. I want people, and then that's the other thing too about one of the real things that I say about this is that I'm not interested in convincing people to be good people. Okay. I think that's where a lot of our leaders misstepped. We are interested in trying to convince and trying to prove to whether that's white people, black people, convince, hey, we're really good. You should treat us with respect. You should treat us with humanity. I'm not interested in convincing people to be good people, because being a good person is more for you than it ever could be for me. Okay? Being a good person is how you are well within your soul, how you are well within your spirit. I'm not interested in convincing people to be good people. If you want to be a good person and you will be on the same frequency, let's go. But if you do not, I'm over here. And I think that is where we have to go in regards to whether the people who are a part of the oppression or whether the people who want to join the movement. If you want to be a good person and you want to fight for the youth and for the people that are coming up after you, then by all means, let's go. But I'm not trying to convince you to be a good person to do it. I'm not interested in that. I want good people who want to be good people. I don't want to convince someone, oh yeah, you should do this. No. If you want to be a good person and do right and understand and be educated and learn about what is and how harm has occurred, then sure. But I'm not interested in convincing people to be decent human beings.
Yeah. And then when, say that you're held, like we talking about Malcolm and Martin. Now they're, since they passed, now you hear about the documents where, oh yeah, Martin was going to cheat with white women and try to chip at his morale. After he's done died and everything, try to chip at his morale. And it's like, do I have to be the most upstanding, button up, tie, everything, like just to be heard?
Like, you do. I think you do.
Yeah,
I think you do.
Then you take away my humanity, my humanness. I'm not perfect. No one is that perfect. What president was that perfect? Let's be real. Not very few presidents was perfect.
Very few.
But you didn't wait until they died to chip at their character, assassinating their character, downgrading their humanity like they're doing Malcolm and Martin, trying to say, oh, well, if a man cheats on his wife and he's such this Christian, try to doubt, should we stand with him or his views? Like, no. And it's like, I want people, as far as working for reparations, to be human. They could be felons. They could be whatever. They could be single moms. They could be people that, came out of rehab and got their life together. It's all types of people because that's our descendant of people. We're not all church going. We're not all going to church on Sunday. We're not going to the mosque and praying. Everyone's not doing that. We're all types of people all in one. And once you try to put this, oh, you got to be perfect for me to listen to you type of filter, you really don't want to listen at all anyway.
Well, I'll say
we all have something to share and learn from. Yeah.
I'll say this. Evolution is, I don't know if Baba put me on the fertile ground. Evolution is the only form of perfection. So that is as long as you are striving and you are evolving and you are growing. I think that is the marker for whether we should be listening or not. We know Malcolm was a pimp and a thief. We know that. That's literally facts. But he evolved.
Exactly.
He stepped into grace and redemption, and I think everybody is allowed grace and redemption, and to garner the wisdom from their mistakes and to move forward. And I think that no one's saying perfection. But we must hold a standard. We must say, what lessons have you learned? How can you teach? What can you teach us? What can you show us? How can you use the mistakes that you have made to teach the people coming up after you? So that's where I'm at with it. I think that we're not asking for perfection, but we are asking for accountability, and we're asking for work. What do you have? What can you give the movement? What can you give to the people? What tools do you have in your tool belt to give to the people that you know? I think that's where having tools in your tool belt that you have, hey, I've tried this. This is what works. I have tried and tested it for myself. And so while we don't want we shouldn't desire perfection, but we must hold a standard for accountability, and ask, hey, what is it? What can you teach us? And what you have to give? Because I think this is service. This is a work of service. This is we are doing this work not for the glitz and the glamour. We're doing this because it's something that you're passionate about. I know, like you said, you work in education also, and you work with the youth, and I just want a better experience for the people coming up after me. That is the sole thing. I don't want some of the lessons and some of the hard ways that I've had to learn lessons. I want better for the next generation. And I think that is what was done for us to be here. And we must continue and add to that.
I agree. Especially when it comes to the kids, they have a phone and it's access to the world. Something that we didn't have till we was 15, 16, whatever case may be. Mm-hmm. Like that was our onset of having any type of flip phone. But they're in, 5-year-old with a phone like a working person's supposed to have, like so their access to the world and information is so massive, but their understanding shrinks, it feels like. And When it comes to the young people, like we're both in education. We know a lot of kids have educational needs. And if you don't help them at this prime age, under 18, when they become 18 and now they're out there in the world, it's a harsher reality for them because they're not as prepared. So when it comes to like definitely concerning reparations and understanding that, we have to work on literacy in our community a lot. But also understand that a lot of these kids that are falling through the cracks, somewhat purposely, education-wise, will unfortunately contribute to being a demographic in the criminal justice system. Because when you fail to educate, or you fail to meet the educational needs of a child, you increase their chances, especially being Black, of ending up in the penal system. And I feel it's purposely done. Especially some of these kids, like half of the kids in your city schools are dealing with poverty. A lot of them are living in shelter-connected systems. So you have a level of poverty matched with educational, deficits. It may be a grim future. And then, you do have tons of educators that help and that's very loving and really do their job, but it's a big system and a lot of kids do fall through the cracks. And, the lack of education leads to lifelong poverty. So like, a lot of like, for instance, like, one of the topics I wanted to speak on was, Black people that are disabled and how that affects them and, how they need a voice within the reparations fight. Because some stats like 2.5 million working age Black adults, 15 to 24, are, they have a disability. And of that 2.5 million, 1.5 of them have 2 or more disabilities. Those disabilities can be cognitive, they could be auditory, their disability could need them to depend on ambulatory services. So the access to a greater sense of community outside when school is over is grim at times. Their educational prospects can be grim. And of course, there are services there, of course, in New York, but New York is not like every other place in the US. We're very fortunate up here. We have a certain level of accessibility. But when you're disabled, say like physically disabled or, cognitively, depending on where you live at, it can be a hassle to get to a library that has working internet. If you live in rural areas, like the internet access is very grim, especially since the FCC took away the program that gave free internet to everybody. So now you have more people in rural areas that have lack of internet, which is a form of digital discrimination. Because you don't have access to internet. How would you do job training that's virtual? How would you get introduced to a new industry? And be, for you to have a fighting chance in this economy or have a better chance for yourself. It gets very slim pickings and in poverty, can you afford internet? As many different like layers to like, how I feel like certain things should be put in the reparation proposal bills when it comes to Black and disabled population among us and the hardships they face just to get to what we take for granted. Working internet with a decent speed to download and upload, accessibility, even having sidewalks. Rural, there's not much sidewalks. So if you have a ambulatory type of disability, you're going to really struggle. Like if you can't get to the grocery store without having to depend on a neighbor, you're going to be in trouble. You can't get to your medical appointments and so forth, and you're really closed off from the rest of the world, in a sense.
I think that one of the one of the things that I think is, to be frank, I think Black people who are being educated by a Eurocentric system, it disables everyone. Not to take away from what you were saying, but when you are not operating from your identity, the true identity, or a sense of pride, as you mentioned before, like having a sense of pride or having a sense of um esteem about who you are. I think that is a disability also. And so I think that we are operating in this system that benefits from that disability, that continues to take from and continues to harm by perpetuating our lack of knowledge and our lack of esteem. They profit from our insecurities. They profit from the places where we are harmed, and I think that it's important to educate so that we can operate from pride. And I think that when you have a certain level of pride, you move differently. You move differently when you care more about yourself. You make different moves. You say, I don't know if I'm going to do that, or and so I think that that's just that was just something that I thought about when you were saying about the disability.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's why some kids lose interest in school. The kids that aren't qualifying for IEP, that's in general ed, they don't feel like the history they're learning represents them in a positive way. So they don't want to listen to that.
Yeah, and it's one of the things too that I've said is that there's a level of shame.
Yes,
there's a level of, and that shame is often internalized by Black people, or in Black people, and particularly Black students. And for me, the way that I deal with it is that shame does not belong to me. That shame that people that is pushed onto me, that does not belong to me. The shame should belong to the people who caused the harm. That this happened. I should not feel ashamed of the ghetto. I should not feel ashamed of the enslavement. I don't feel shame about that. I feel pride about that because of the resilience that it illustrated, and continues to illustrate. And so I think a lot of times we shy away from it because of that level of shame. And so I just want us to remember that shame don't belong to us. That shame belongs to the people who caused the harm.
And who keep us in those conditions to even make us feel shameful. Like, no one wants to wake up hungry. No one wants to be, in a roach infested apartment because mom and dad can't afford a better area to live in and so forth. But these are policies put in, and mom and dad just can't go to the other side of town with their income and qualify with the different rules in real estate. So they have to make do with the community where they're at and try the best that they can. So those type of things that may be seen as shameful, that's just different levels of evolution, like he was saying, different levels of our progression. Coming from rural area and coming to live in our projects is a step up for some folk, realistically. You know what I'm saying? It may be like, oh, that's the slums, but it's progression still. It's one step forward to it's better access. Not for nothing, I may be in the hood, but I got good internet. I could walk to the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? It's still a better access than what you had before. That's why people come to America. America's not perfect, but it's a ton of Black immigrants that come here for a better life because they were possibly in a very rural area, living, very humbly. And when they come here, it's like, okay, land of opportunity. Our slum, our shameful areas is progression to them. It may be heaven for them. So it's like, the people who want you to feel shameful, want you to get lost, this is still a part of the progression. That's all.
Yeah, and it's still a tactic, right? Because if you keep someone in shame, then about the situation, you have them avoiding the accountability. So avoiding that, you'll avoid the problem because of the shame. And so that is another way that they keep us from speaking out, and they keep us from telling, and they keep us from saying, hey, this isn't right. So that's just another tactic and way that, that it's continued.
Yeah. And of course, say that you make it to the suburbs, you're not in the hood no more. If you still carry that shame all the way to Hollywood, you may not reach back.
Yeah, and not only that, you will have coping mechanisms and try to fill that void and try to fill those things with things that will never really fill it. With
exactly
the things that will never really heal you or generate the feeling that you need.
Exactly.
All right, so I was wanting to recenter this a little bit back, and same thing that y'all talking about, and you mentioned it a little bit, Nikema, like how do you all see reparations addressing what you all are talking about in terms of education, in terms of disabilities?
Okay, so I have ideas.
How do we bring reparations in to actually address some of these things?
Okay, so I have an idea. When it comes to like the being Black and disabled, say that you're in a rural area, or you're in the outskirts of a major city, like in the South somewhere. In some areas, you may not have no actual, sidewalks to even get to the front to CVS. If you influence city planning, which is done on purpose, so the reason why we have lack of sidewalks and better roads, because the automobile industry lobby for this to be this way. They want car dependency. So if you have auto companies that are billion-dollar companies lobbying to the government, so our infrastructure can be very car dependent, then you make it harder for people who actually need access based off their disability. So you're basically helping to further disenfranchise Black people who are disabled. You're lessening more businesses being on, or more commercial businesses coming to certain rural areas. You're controlling the demographic of the population that goes into redlining. All of this is all connected. So I feel like within the reparations bills or proposals, there should be an understanding of that we need to actually pressure our different city agencies for better city planning. So it would actually be more sidewalks, actual bus routes, to help with accessibility. If you want more voter registration, more voter turnout among Black folks, that would be helpful. Accessibility, because it's all purposely done. You have, Black folks who are not getting to their medical appointments because it's too far out. They can't afford to live in a major city, so they're in the outskirts 2 hours away from the major city. But being how their providers are in the major city, everything's by design. So actually pressuring these local governments to actually implement more pressure and telling them, hey, this further disenfranchises this disabled population. You don't just hit them with the racial, you hit them with the actual disabled population as well too. So they can't say, oh, it's all about race. No, it's about accessibility for the disabled population. At times, I feel they have to pair it with another population to get certain type of traction, or to make people give a damn a little bit because they don't want to hear race and stuff like that. So like you could basically get them there. And also pressuring the government to actually have Wi-Fi in these rural areas. Say that you wanted to do a poll to see how Black people feel about reparations. How would some folks access that poll if they have no internet? They can't get there from a physical location. So virtually will be the other alternative, but they don't have accessible Wi-Fi. So basically pressuring the FCC or any type of more up there government about having better internet, because that contributes to digital discrimination. People don't think about that as a form of discrimination, having lack of internet in rural areas. It will help everybody, but it really messes us up as Black disabled.
Right. Well, what I'd say, my thoughts are a bit more radical in terms of how do we, can you ask the question one more time? Can you tell me, how does reparations?
Yeah, how does reparations address some of the conversations y'all having about education, particularly since both are working in the school system, but also education, Black disability, and shame?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have to separate.
No, I'm with that too. Yeah,
That's one of the things I think that, you know, when we talk about when we talk about the disparities in education, one of the things that we know specifically about literacy is that when children are read to, this improves their literacy. Okay, when you have a parents and parent, either single parent household or both family, two family homes, when you have parents who are overworked and in survival mode, can they read to their children? They cannot read to their children. They do not have the extra life force to pour into their children, either academically or emotionally. And so that is how we are getting all of these things. We are getting the offshoots and the results of this continued harm, this continued survival mode. And that's why we're getting all of these I hate to say it, deficient, you know, adults, deficient children who are coming into classrooms and acting out for the attention that they are not getting at home. And so I think it's up to us, the people, to cultivate ourselves as many as possible to wholeness, to self-sustaining, so that we can get other people to wholeness and self-sustaining without being a part of this system, because this system was built on our harm. Furthermore, I believe that when you get more people who are operating in wholeness, you can then pour into the children in a more whole way. And then you will have a better, overall standard. And so that's how I feel in regards to education. So it's getting more people to wholeness, and so that it can get everyone to sustainability, and being able to pour effectively into our children. I had another thought, but it left me. So
I agree with that, because you have, how many people can, rent is very expensive. Okay. Okay. And you do have parents really working double time, two different jobs, two part-time jobs, whatever way they have to put food on the table. And you're overworked and underpaid. Your child is seeking attention. They're not getting that one-to-one at home that they would like. They're looking for it to be at home. And
I remember what I was going to say.
Behind that. Mm-hmm.
I remember what it was I was going to say. I think that you know, one of the things that that I think we can take away as a positive from slavery is that we are Black people, us. We are our greatest commodity. Okay, we are the greatest commodity. We were stolen because we were a great commodity, and we do not view ourselves as a great commodity. And I think that in also in journeying to wholeness and in journeying to real change, I think we have to look at ourselves as a commodity, and how are we making our investments in ourselves? How are we pouring into ourselves to be self-sustained? So that was just the other piece about we're our greatest commodity, and how are we investing and cultivating ourselves so that we can be useful to ourselves and our community.
Yeah. And that's great too. And we do have there's tons of Black educators that are helping kids with homework, after school programs. There are very few that actually are still around. Thing about it, a lot of these programs got cut. So now kids are not in a school setting till 5 o'clock anymore to help out, less kids being home by themselves after school, less chances of them going here and there and just doing everything with their friends, which is a lot of, preteens out here just idly trying to find something to do because there's a lack of after school programs to help out with enrichment or, helping understand certain things on purpose, I feel like. Because you go to other communities, they're very much there. You'd be surprised how the budget is in these different communities when it comes to a different colored demographic. I had a chance to learn that when I moved to another state, and we resided in a county that was over 90% white. But not for nothing, during COVID, it's certain programs that would give things to kids in New York City that the kids have to sign down, like, oh, is your parent incarcerated? Then we'll give you little gifts here. You have to qualify for something at times in these accessible cities when it comes to our demographic of kids. But same demographic of kids, or more broadly, all the kids, the school social workers tell you, hey, what's so-and-so size? We have the funding, we got, a grant, whatever, and your child will come home with sneakers, some socks, whatever, because my son received it, and it's that different. It may be a racist county now. That's the different flip side of it. That's why I left and homeschooled my child, because I found out it was some racist individuals. It's way different.
Let me step in. Dr. Nakima. So we're kind of at the end of the show. It's been very rich, very full, as I know it would be, with my great guests. I just, want y'all to take us out with what would you like to say to your peers around, getting more involved in the reparations movement, supporting the reparations movement, learning more about the reparations movement. Or maybe you'll have a message to us, the olders, about reparations.
Oh, I got so much to say. Be a 2 hour thing.
We have to do another one.
2 minutes. We're gonna wrap up.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I would ask the
2 minutes.
older generation to just be more open to hearing our ideas as millennials and some Generation Z. I know we get a bad rep for being short-tempered or being very opinionated in different ways, or however the older generation feels, but you are the wisdom and we're the soldiers. So let us, prepare us to go out there. And, we have a lot of opinions because, the demographic is changing and people's views are changing. Let us all.
I would say that every day, how are you making deposits into your people and yourself in going in the right direction? And I feel that way for both the youth and my generation and the elder generation. I think that would be what I'm saying every day, because every day, a little bit at a time. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a snap of the fingers and here we go. It is every day. How are you making your daily deposits? How are you making your daily investments? How are you making your daily chip away at and moving towards healing, wholeness, and betterment and cultivation for your community? So it's about taking accountability and saying every day, how did I do one thing? How did I grow? How did I pour into a child? How did I pour into myself so that I could be a benefit to my community?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We need a part 2.
So we could do a part 2. So you've been So you've been listening to Reparations Now podcast with your host, Brother Jumoke Ifetayo. We've had a very lively conversation with the millennials, with my daughters, around reparations and education and healing. And so we encourage you to support this channel, to like and subscribe to this channel. And very good show. We look forward to maybe doing, we won't say possibly, doing a part 2 in the future. And I want to thank my engineer, Brother Major, for being doing tech support for this show. And we want to thank Reparations United for underwriting this show. And we give thanks and praises. And we say reparations now, reparations now, reparations now.